Well, welcome in one and all to the first live stream of the Traditionalists. Now, we are five of the hosts, or we're not all of them. We're hoping
We're
that
the
a
cool
few
ones.
guys, we're the cool ones. We're the ones who are on time, the punctual ones, the good boys of the class, I suppose. We're hoping that we'll have Matt join us as well. Everyone, who's watching this probably knows Matt from the show on Catholic Family Podcast. He hopefully will be joining. He apparently has his Italian family over for dinner, so that may be a little bit crazy, but we hope to have him on. We might have Frankie and Corey on as well. They're also going to be hosts on the channel, at least part-time hosts. We will see as we go along, as we lose Father. But we do welcome everybody in. Sorry, guys, just a sec. Is everything? Did you guys freeze? No. Everything's good. All right. Half of you guys froze. Okay, that's not a good start. I don't know. We'll blame that on Dad's internet. But anyway, today we wanted to do a brief introduction of the hosts. Kind of everyone can give a little bit of a shout out who they are, briefly or long-winded if they would like. And then we'll talk a bit about what content we would like to produce after that. So kind of what each of us wants to bring to this channel. What is the channel? And then we might talk a bit about the differences between traditionalism and conservatism. And if everyone still wants us to keep on talking, then we may just continue to, there goes Father again. We may just continue to talk about current events, say, Donald Trump or the fact that Joe Biden just gave the Medal of Freedom to George Soros and Hillary Clinton, which is incredible. Like, really, you can't make the stuff up. It really is like a Saturday Night Live script. But I guess for those of you who are new, thank you for being here. Those of you who are old, thank you as well. Please contribute in the comment section. Ask us questions. Ask us whatever you would like. But we'll start, maybe Dad, if you want to give a brief description of who you are.
Sure.
I guess just in general.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say real quickly, I'm one of the driving forces behind Catholic Family Podcast, and not in front of the camera, but certainly behind the camera and doing a lot of the post processing and whatnot. And so, standing in front of the camera in with the Traditionalists is going to be something new. Obviously, father of 10 children, and God be praised, all 10 still in the faith as adults. So, I mean, that's I think, if you want to, that's probably our greatest accomplishment as a family. I think I started, when we first talked about having a show here, my first thought on doing a show was when I was actually going to call it The White Pill. And we were going to look at the good news that's out there and kind of be a counter to all the doom and gloom. And as I got to thinking about that, I started thinking that I think that's going to have kind of a short shelf life and not a big reach, because I just think that you only have so many topics you can discuss, and there is a broad range of things going on out there in the wide world. So what I'm really hoping to do is put up a show. Thursday's going to be my day, and I'm hoping to do a number of live shows and with some guests. And I think what we're going to do is try to take some of the issues that are around the periphery, maybe in the news, and we may not have really good answers for them, but we're going to break them down. We're going to provide a Catholic context, and have a good Catholic discussion on them, and just hopefully leave people better informed than they were. Maybe not maybe not with answers, but better informed than they were to start.
Sorry, Dad, I literally had the printer going off right as I was about to pick up on you. so again, it's going to be one of those days. No, that sounds good, Dad, and that is really interesting. And I'm curious to see how that goes. And I think it's hard to go down these paths where it is verging on conspiracy theory, verging on too crazy, but still interesting and not your common topics. I was just talking with Dad and Eric right before the show, and I was like, the one thing we cannot do on this show is to have every single topic, every single show turn into Catholic action. And I think that's just because Dad, we were talking about earlier, it's like, that's our comfort zone, right? For many of us, it's like the comfort zone is, these things that we already know, these things that we've heard all the time, and we're comfortable with talking about. And so I think that exactly as you say, we want to push that a little bit and talk about things that are not quite so comfortable. And speaking of not quite so comfortable, Michael, I think you're a good one to go next, because you started out with a banger today. I haven't listened to the whole thing, but what I listened to was very good, very, very thought provoking, and very also just
very
provoking. And I think people are going to be sitting and thinking about that one for a while. So if you want to, and I have to also ask you, what on earth is physiologist? I've wanted to ask you that for years now. I've known you on Twitter for that long, and I've never known what that means.
Well, it means the physiologist. It's the title of a book, one of ancient bestiaries. So it's probably the original book on Christian animal allegories. So when you, for example, see a pelican with tearing its breast open to feed its children with its blood, that's from that book.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. And so why did you pick that name as a Twitter handle, I suppose?
Well, I could give variety of very good, very philosophical reasons. The simple answer is that was the book I was reading at the time when I started my account.
Nice. I like it. That's a good reason. That's a good reason. Well, I appreciate it.
Well, I wanted something which didn't sound too Polish, because, I mostly started to interact with people in the West, so I wanted something that would be easy to remember, easy to pronounce. I don't know if I succeeded.
Is physiologist? I don't know. Is that easy though? I don't know.
I was going to say, you're the only one with the fancy name here.
I mean, it's better than a Polish name. That's true. I've had to call basketball games with like a Polish team, and it's a absolute total nightmare. So I'm glad you didn't go there, at least. And before, Michael, I'm going to ask a little bit about who you are. But first, I do want to tell everyone, we are live streaming on the Catholic Family Podcast as well. Part of that is because we want to grow our audience over on the Traditionalists. There is a difference. So the clear difference is that Catholic Family Podcast is exactly as you would kind of think. It's Catholic, it's family, it's talking about things about the saints, theology. We're talking with the priests about all sorts of different issues. And the Traditionalist is going to be more focused on current affairs, news, politics, philosophy, etc. So they will sometimes intertwine. They'll sometimes be the same. Maybe we'll publish on both channels sometimes, but they are different. So this show that we're talking about right now is for the channel, The Traditionalists. It is brand new, began on January 1st. Please, if you're listening to this, watching this on Catholic Family Podcast, go over to the other channel, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. That's really the most important. Subscribing is great. The most important is the notification bell, because then you're going to be notified when we actually produce content. And then you're going to, I can guarantee you, when you see the show that Michael produced today, you're going to be like, okay, that's interesting. And you're going to want to listen to it. And there's been other ones. Father had a great one about marriage published yesterday. I haven't gotten to listen to it yet. So I guess I shouldn't say it's great. Sorry, I'm jumping the gun there. I assume it's great.
Are you doubting me, Kevin? That's
I never, Father. I would never doubt you. No, and Father and I did a show yesterday as well. We've already got 10 videos up. We just started on January 1st. So again, please go over to that channel, The Traditionalists, and subscribe and hit that notifications bell. Okay, Michael, who are you?
Well, I'm just a Polish traditionalist.
Fair enough.
I think that's enough for this channel.
That's fair enough. Like I said, you don't have to give any more than but you do. Do you like jelly donuts? I said you at least have to say something that you like, Michael. Come on.
No, but I like smoking tobacco.
Oh, fair enough. That is a very traditionalist mindset. I think I don't know about Dad. I know Eric can definitely smoke a cigar. Father as well.
Well, I don't do it because it's traditional. Actually, I put it in my Twitter bio when I first started because, well, it seemed like a humanizing element, something personal. And then I discovered there's a whole controversy. There are those who smoke because it's part of the style. Absolutely, don't smoke for the style. If you like it, smoke. If you don't like it, don't. Anyway.
But philosophizing about how to smoke tobacco is again, it's a good start. It's a good start for the channel. We could do a whole
pipe.
Or with a pipe, right?
Yeah,
we could do a whole podcast
right
about smoking. I think that's actually a good idea. We're going to do that. We're going to do
you have to do it
right
while
way to
smoking
smoke
as well. Yeah.
Of course. I'll open the window. Make sure my wife's not here. I also want on this channel, this is the type of show we also want to have. So we want to talk about deep topics. I also want to talk with my buddy Christian, who is a beer expert. He's in Munich, so he's a beer expert. He works at a beer museum, and I want to talk to him about the different types of beer. Exactly, what is a wheat beer? How do you make it? What is a dark beer? Would be pretty cool, I think, and pretty interesting. We should do it about smoking as well. So I guess moving on. I'm Kevin. I host a Catholic Family podcast. People probably recognize me from that. I have a family of 3 here in Bavaria. Dan over there, that's my dad. So I'm one of the 10 kids. One of the bad eggs. I got a priest, a seminarian, and 2 nuns. So it's kind of hard. I have a lot to live up to in the family, so that's pretty difficult. But doing our best over here and staying busy. Got a pretty cool thing coming up in January, hosting or doing a play-by-play for basketball tournament in Munich, which is pretty exciting. So that's a kind of I went to broadcasting school, so continuing that makes me feel good that I did not just use it for podcasting. So Father, who are you?
I'm Father Geckel. Been a priest for, what is it now? Ordained in 2016. So 8 years almost.
Wow.
Something like that. Born in the Holy Land, otherwise known as Ohio. As we like to call it.
The Ohio-Colorado Wars.
Yeah. We got a Colorado bias here. Yeah. Minority here. Sure. Anyway, no. Born in Ohio, 92. My parents, we have 9 kids in our family, so I'm number 8 of 9. So big traditional Catholic family. I've been a traditional Catholic my whole life by the grace of God. My parents, they found they started looking around in the, I think, early 80s or late 70s about what was going on in the church, and came across Father Dennis Chicoine, who was giving a lecture in Columbus, Ohio, and that was it for them. It answered all their questions about what was going on in the church and connected the dots of what was going on in the world and society, and they converted 100% in the 80s. So very stark change from the 70s culture into very strict traditional Catholic. The Seminary at that time was going very, very strict, very, very, very seriously to counteract, kind of the pendulum swinging the opposite way of the 70s. So they completely embraced that, and that I came along later. So I was born in the Seminary when things had kind of evened out a little bit after the shoe card days, and that's been my life ever since. I should say, I've never known anything else. I'm not an expert of anything, but I have been a traditional Catholic my whole life. Had the great blessing to be to have a Catholic school, a parish school run by the Seminary nuns, Seminary sisters, for grade school, and then high school. Went to Omaha, Nebraska with Bishop Ivarunas' school there with the CMD sisters. That's where I met Kevin and the Davis family and a lot of other people, a lot of other great people.
Not as great though. Not as great. I mean,
Will I still
cool?
Be on the channel if I disagree with it?
Be careful. I do have a delete button.
Yeah. So been during the seminary when I was 17 in 2010. Partway through that, the bishop had me start helping out with the schools, so teaching in either grade school or high school. Also helping with the border students, so I got a lot of hands-on experience there. And that was interesting, just seeing the change in culture as cell phones were coming out and internet became the norm. So I learned a lot about that and the effects that had on I don't know. Anyway, learned a lot through that experience. So as in Omaha, helping out with the school there until 2020, when Bishop gave me the green light to move down to Arkansas, where I'd been driving down to regularly. So helped in the school there for probably 7 years or so, maybe more. I don't know. kind of runs together. So I had about 7 or 8 years of experience helping out with the school there, and then been stationed here in Arkansas ever since, where I have mass in about 6 different locations, 3 in Arkansas, 2 in Missouri, and 1 in Kentucky. So that keeps me going. Some of them it's just once a month or twice a month when I can get there, but it's definitely get around. And one very nice benefit that I know I'm going really long here, but sorry. One really nice thing is neat thing is having been born in the North, having a dad that was very much a history buff. Loved to talk about the Civil War and how the South was actually right in the Civil War and other such things, because he was a history buff. He loved that kind of stuff, loved the Civil War. And, growing up being around all of these people that had a traditional mindset, that were looking at what was going on in the government, in the world from a traditional perspective. You wouldn't believe it now, but I was really, really quiet when I was younger. So I listened to got to listen to a lot of people talk about these things. So, that forms your mindset growing up. And, having that influence of a more northern perspective in my youth, and then being an Omaha adult, got a lot of input from people there from all around the country and the world.
Midwest,
the seminary, being an international seminary, learned a lot there. And then now I'm in my happy place in the South. So different culture, different culture, different way of doing things, different way of thinking, and it's really an awesome thing. As a Catholic, you get to see all these different viewpoints and how they all coalesce and can work together so well with the Catholic faith. But anyway, that's
well, we got a comment for you, Father. This is from good friend Andrew over at Crusader Filmworks. He says, if you're ever in the Georgia area, I'd love to have you say mass at Our Lady of Guadalupe, or even just to visit.
That'd be
cool.
awesome.
I mean, that's a bit of a trip, I would assume, from Arkansas. I don't know. My U.S. geography is not great.
Yeah, I've never been to Georgia, so that would be good. I bet it'd be, depending where he is, maybe 10 or 12 hours, but
beautiful little church
that
they built down there. Awesome. Pretty cool. Really cool story with Andrew, someone who we definitely want to have on this show. Of course, also on the Catholic Family Podcast, but he also has his own channel. So, get I guess the competition. But no, it's another channel everyone should go check out if you haven't already. Crusader Filmworks is really, really good. Okay, Eric, who are you besides being a caveman?
I'm Eric the Caveman. No. Also, by the grace of God, was born and raised a cradle traditional Catholic. I grew up with Kevin and the Davis family in Colorado. Unlike them, I'm still here in the great state of Colorado.
True.
It's not worth leaving. I'm married. My wife and I have 6 children. I've got a chemical engineering degree. I've worked in manufacturing for 14 years, mostly medical device manufacturing. Also a small stint in semiconductor. And I love jelly donuts and tobacco at the same time.
At the same time. Can life get any better? Nice. No. Well, so then I would ask, we got a bit about what Dad wants to do for content. Mike, I'll ask you then, what is your plan? And again, you published today. People can go check that out. I recommend that you do after you're done listening to this live stream. But what is your shtick, I suppose, or I don't know. Approach?
Well, definitely in style, I'm going to take the advice of Hitchcock and start with an earthquake and then escalate from there. I think I'll try to focus on, let's say, political economy. I would very much like to take a good textbook of political science and then go through all the basic facts, basic knowledge, and then do the same for economy, just so we don't talk in the vacuum, so we know what exactly we mean when we talk about liberalism or about monarchism or about conservatism. And of course, well, obviously I do like certain controversial topics. And I also clearly think the South was right in the Civil War.
I guessed. Well, and I have to say, my mom is is from North Carolina, so her family certainly is from the South, and I grew up with an aunt who was very, very pro Confederacy. So I would say I am definitely more on the side of the South as well. So Eric, Dad, I don't know how you guys feel about the Civil War, but that may be another great topic to
maybe a good show. Yeah.
Good show. Though Eric, you may have to be our contra.
Well, so my position would be the nuanced one. There were good and bad things on both sides. I think a sweeping generalization about the South was the good guys the South is the good guys completely is false.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Okay, so then go ahead, Michael.
Biting my tongue. Continue.
If we were to do a show about the Civil War, we actually have some really good materials, because there is a 3-part series by one of the Southern bishops, Bishop Augustine Verot, who I think pretty conclusively showed from Catholic theology that the South was right and the North had no right to attack.
In every way, the South is right.
Well, he does grant that there was certain questionable... there was certain points on both sides, but it does not justify military aggression. And this, I believe, was also the position of President Buchanan, that even if the South had no right to secede, the North had no right to force them back.
Well, and it's obvious that there had to be nuance and good points to both sides, because the Catholic bishops in the South and the Catholic bishops in the North, I don't think had from what I understand and what I've read, they weren't agreed. You have Southern bishops that were very, very much in favor of the South, and you had Northern bishops that were very, very much in favor of that side. So certainly there had to have been more nuance than just one side is absolutely evil and wrong and the other is 100% right.
I haven't been able to track down all the materials, but I know that 2 bishops, one Northern, one Southern, actually held a debate in the press. They corresponded on this, exchanged open letters. Archbishop Hughes of New York, and from the South, Bishop Patrick Lynch.
That would be very interesting.
I haven't managed to track down all the materials, but it would be very interesting.
That could make a good show on its own.
Yeah, definitely. Well, the point. Please go ahead.
It's that 3-dimensionality, which I think is actually a lot better story than the South was right or the North was right. I think that because it is, I mean, there's no question it's nuanced and there's going to be right and wrong. But I think as you really get in and explore the arguments on both sides, I think it's just a far more fascinating discussion.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and it's interesting because speaking again of Crusader Filmworks, they recently produced a music video about an Irish brigade that joined the Mexican army during the Mexican-American War, and kind of how the Irish kind of thought of it, how they went into it on the American side and kind of switched sides because they thought the Mexicans were the more Catholic, etc. And again, I'm sure it's nuanced, but really interesting, these stories that you don't really hear about, because of course in the American school, you're of course taught that the American-Mexican War, the Americans were, of course, they were always the good guys.
History is written by the victors.
That's it.
And the U.S. has never done anything wrong ever.
I think there is a movie about that Irish brigade.
Is there? Interesting.
Yes, I have no idea how to track it down because I don't remember the title.
Interesting.
I'm pretty sure there was a movie about it.
Well, Andrew, maybe if you know that in the comment section, Andrew, let us know. And Andrew, maybe link in the comments. Andrew, if you're still there, link your video. It's really good.
Yeah.
Andrew and his wife are very talented.
St. Anthony Padua Radtrad out in California, we might be able to say there is nothing nuanced about California. It is
it's evil.
I will defend California's geography. If anyone's ever been
geography,
you can imagine if it was a red state, I would live there in a heartbeat.
Yeah. That's true. The weather. Well, you go to San Diego, in January or in July, and it's 70 degrees, and the breeze coming in. Oh man, beautiful. Go ahead, Father. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that just I don't know if we want to make it a final point or continue or go on.
Do it.
But my dad would always say, that slavery would have been completely out of vogue almost right at the same time that the Civil War happened or ended, because of the way technology was advancing and how equipment was developing to pick the cotton and do the other things that was the majority of the work the slaves did. So slavery was already on the way out, at least generally, just like England had abolished slavery 30-40 years before the Civil War happened. That's the way things were going anyway. So that would have happened, but the amassing of power in the federal government and the destruction of the states' rights happened, and that has not reversed to this day. Obviously, it's continued on that trend even more. So the federal government overstepping its bounds was the reason, I believe, the main reason for the Civil War, not slavery. It's just the propaganda, I think, for the most part.
Well, and there's so many things we could say about Abraham Lincoln, etc. But I suppose we should keep moving on. Everyone in the comment section is like, "What are you guys talking about today?"
One more point, if I may. I think that from the European perspective, the victory of the North and a transformation of America into something resembling an empire, a centralized empire, was a very bad thing for us, because that empire quickly, during the First World War, turned to our affairs, and President Woodrow Wilson certainly helped destroy European monarchies.
Yeah,
which really is a dreadful thing, especially for Germany, because I think World War II would not happen if Germany kept monarchical government.
yeah,
100% agree.
Yeah,
100% agree.
It shows you how these things topple over each other, right? And it is certainly interesting. And I think that's, again, it's something that as a channel we want to cover. I mean, my brother William, I think, wants to cover some of these types of things as well, to look into. I think he even wanted to talk about the Catholic perspective of the Civil War. So I think exactly like what we're talking about. Eric and I, that's part of what I want to cover. Now, I have the hope of doing a Tim Pool style. No, everyone knows Tim Pool, but kind of a daily update of like what's in the news, briefly describing this is the top story, and I'm going to give my opinion on it. That's kind of what I want to do. If it's going to happen, we'll see. I'm pretty busy, but that's kind of the goal. It'll give us a lot of content and hopefully something that people would like. Eric and I want to cover this book. I think it's funny because I mentioned it in a show with Father Geckel, and Eric's like, "Wait, are you talking about this one?" I literally turned my camera just so I could show this book. It's really
funny
good
because you mentioned it, and I had just finished reading it like a week before. So
that's odd. Yeah, I just finished.
I love that
Great
book.
minds, I guess.
It's so good, and it's so just really well put together and explaining the Inquisition, the slavery actually is one really fascinating topics that
and not written by a Catholic, written by a Protestant historian.
Exactly. Yeah, he's a teacher or professor at Baylor University. He says at the end, the most Baptist university in the United States. He doesn't say. I think he says he's not Baptist, so I don't know what he is, but I'm not traditional Catholic. But really interesting book. And that's something that now we know the Father has read it. Maybe we'll see if Father can join us for some of these shows, because really, really interesting topics that he just totally hammers down the facts on the Crusades and sometimes it does show that bad things did happen in these times, but typically it's not at all what you've learned in school. Not at all. They just lie. They just purely make it up. It's purely fictitious, and it's incredible. So that's kind of what I want to do. I'm going to do, again, try to do the more daily show. I got a show with Father on Friday, which is going to be also topical, generally trying to be topical, talking about the things that are in the news, and then everyone's got to read Eric's book backwards.
Oh, is it backwards?
And then Eric and I are going to
I
try
was
to
just
do that.
responding to Rosa here. The name of the book
It's
is Bearing
False Witness. Yeah, by Rodney Stark. He has a couple other very good books too.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, he's
the one on
awesome.
the Crusades
really
is very
Crusades
good. Called
is really
God
good.
Battalions.
Really good. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's got another one, the Rise
Let me
of
get my book and
Christianity
hold it
in
up
the
too.
West. This one I haven't started reading yet, but I'm really excited for the Rise of Christianity. Anyway, good stuff. Who are we with? Father Geckel, you're going to do a show with me on Friday. What else do you want to provide?
Yeah, kind of open to feedback on that, because there's so many directions to go. My first request from some people was that I do some material talking about family life, marriage, roles of fathers and mothers in the home, in the family. And that's just a perfect topic, I think, to start out, because, there's nothing so important as having good families, good marriages. If we're going to have traditional living and spread traditionalism and the values and principles of it, it has to start in the home. And the best guide for this, par none, is the Catholic Church. I have some really good books that have good instructions and advice and direction. So that's what I'm going to be doing to begin with, mainly reading straight from them. I also want to get into eventually doing some interviews with some people. It's one of the benefits of being a priest, is you get to meet a lot of people. And I have some really fantastic parishioners that if I can convince to sit down for an interview, we could have some really, really interesting stuff. There's one fella I have that for sure I'm going to do an interview with. His name is Marco Babic. I think he's agreed to it. But he's from Croatia. Yeah, he's from Croatia. They fled the country there when the war happened there. And he's got a very, very interesting story. So that's something I want to do. I want to do some interviews and talk about news, culture, tradition. But I'll be starting with that emphasis on family and marriage.
Cool. Yeah, and I have to say, if there's anyone who's watching this who has a certain knowledge or education or learning or something that you're really passionate about, even you can reach out to me and say, hey, I'd like to be interviewed about this. I'm not going to say for sure that we'll have you on, but we are looking for people to interview about, if you have a PhD in psychology or something, that would be very interesting. And I know there are people out there who do. There are many very, very intelligent Catholics who are out there who can provide good content for the show. So please do reach out. You can always leave a comment here, but even the best is to email me. For this show, again, this show being the Traditionalists, you can please email us at popesandpipes@gmail.com. popesandpipes@gmail.com. That's spelled out. You can also email me at my normal email, kevin89davis@gmail.com. Gabriel Josiah just said they ordered the book on Amazon. Rodney Stark, you better thank me for this. I am making you money right now.
Same here. I've recommended that many times. Bishop Irunis has recommended it a lot too. Yeah.
Or at least come on the podcast. You could bribe him. You don't have to give us.
I'm not kidding. I'm gonna reach out to him and try to get. I mean, you never know.
You may.
Doesn't hurt to try. I mean, with 200 subscribers, but it doesn't hurt to ask. That I can tell you.
Tell him it's for Catholic Family Podcast, right?
It's true. That looks a little bit better, and then we'll just do it on both. That's got 12,000 something. So
Hey, shout out to do I pronounce it Francois from South Africa? That's pretty cool.
Hey, cool.
I don't know what time it is there, but thanks for watching. That's pretty neat having people from halfway across the world.
Very neat. Yeah, Poland, South Africa, Germany. Pretty cool. All right, Eric. What is your niche? What are you going to be doing?
Yeah, so my show, I'm calling it Trad Takes. Primarily, it's going to be responding to political, cultural, economic events that have happened and just give my feedback or my commentary on it. But there are some other things I want to do, like Father. I'm planning and actually have started doing interviews. So, for example, I recorded an interview with someone who's a senior software engineer with one of the big defense and space contractors.
Cool.
Kind of learn and understand how GPS works and what's its role in geopolitics is. Things like that, right? Not specifically Catholic, right?
That's why we have this.
If I wanted to do theology or preaching or something, I should let Father Geckel do that and be in my layman rut.
That's what we're doing. That's why we're here. That's why we have two channels.
Yeah, so I think a little more of a focus on that social, economical perspective, and certainly with the traditionalist, take a traditional mindset on it. But and then also I was planning on doing an interesting read segment. I read a lot. And so this is why this came up. I actually had a couple of points from this Rodney Stark book that I had was thinking of, oh, this will make a good clip, or this will make a good show. And then I didn't want Kevin to steal my thunder, so
we shook hands and we said we're gonna do it together.
We're gonna do it together.
Nice.
So yeah, that's I'd say my niche. I'm not as some of my hot takes aren't as hot, I guess you could say, as some in our,
Eric is our resident
in our circles.
In other terms, he is our resident liberal. He is
resident
one
liberal,
who,
which is hilarious.
Really?
You've seen Elon Musk, right? With his I used to be left, and then the left went crazy, and now he's kind of on the right, staying in the same place. I feel the same. I was in the right, and then the right has gone a little bit loopy, and so now I'm like slightly less right.
Are you saying
anyway?
What are you
just
saying?
A little bit.
You know it's what's it is funny.
It's a diversity, right, Kevin?
We joke about you being the liberal, but then we do the yes or no, and it's actually like, okay, we actually agree on pretty much pretty much everything. It was actually kind of boring. It's like, man, we actually don't disagree. I think we're going to disagree with Michael a lot more than Eric and I disagree, which is awesome. That's exactly what I'm like, Michael is going to stir the pot, and like, yes, let's do it. I want to stir the pot a little bit. And we hope, by the way, the guys who are not here today, Matt, again, he had a family meeting. Frankie and Corey, I have no idea. They're not so communicative, but they do want to be part of this, as far as I know. Frankie, I think people might know. Anyone who's been on the channel for a long time would know him. On Twitter, he's Recusant Catholic, so pretty well known and respected on there. Really sharp guy from England. So we'd like to get his perspective as well on British politics and whatever he wants to talk about. We hope that he will join us.
I don't know
Corey,
if he can provide any perspective on England. They might lock him up.
That is
right.
true. Yeah,
That is
Yeah.
actually a risk in England.
Yeah.
Good point.
You're
It
right.
is. Yep.
You're right.
Social media.
It is
Yep.
interesting as an American to see a lot of these countries in Europe farther and farther right, electing these right wingers, and then to see England just completely go the opposite direction.
But I think England. But I think there's actually a reason for it, though, right? I mean, I don't know if Michael knows it.
England's actually moving though.
They just gave up on their right part, like on the Conservative Party. They just said, like, no, no one is going to vote for them, and so it ended up getting the leftists won it, but I think it was the lowest showing for a vote in 100 years or something. I don't know, a long time. So there was just pretty much people just didn't show up. They just said, no, we don't care. You're all bad. And so, and I think you're going to see in the next election that it'll be. I mean, I hope it's Nigel Farage. I mean, he's the best option that they have. Not perfect, but I could see it. I could really see him winning it. And it's interesting, in Germany, they have an election coming up. It was supposed to be in September, but they moved it up to February. And that's been big in the news that I saw a title today that was from MSN. It said that Elon Musk in hot water for supporting neo-Nazi AfD party in Germany, which is pretty wild, because it is actually in some states the #1 party in Germany. So pretty interesting that the mainstream media is still calling them neo-Nazi, even though they're one of the biggest parties in Germany. So you do see things moving. What would you say, Michael? Populist, I suppose. I mean, I don't know if right is even the right word.
Populist is probably correct, but I'm definitely going to talk about right-wing populism, because it is actually bizarre to me that there's a sort of culture barrier, because people in other countries talk about populism as if it's a good right-wing thing. I was always taught by right-wingers that right-wing is authoritarian. I am definitely an authoritarian. I don't... Look, if our views are supported by the people, and people go out into the streets and cheer that we ban abortion, for example, that's wonderful. If they are going out to protest that we are banning abortion, well, roll out the tanks.
Right.
Certain things are non-negotiable.
Like murder.
Moral things.
Like murdering people, yeah, right.
But also basic principles of contract law. If we allow democracy, people will sooner or later vote to get out of contracts or get out of debt. We sort of have this with student debt. in many countries. People incur debts, and then they go, well, we didn't know. Government save us.
Yeah. No, it's a good point, and it's an interesting. Father and I were just talking about on a show about we need a new dictator, and it's kind of that idea, right? It's like this idea of populism or even of a democracy it's certainly flawed. It doesn't mean it doesn't mean monarchy is the answer necessarily, or dictatorship, but I think everyone would agree this idea of worshiping democracy or populism is certainly not, is also not, the right response.
Yeah, morality doesn't come from the masses; it comes from God. And
Right.
if it requires a strong central government that is based on such principles, it will be more just than one that's run by the masses. I mean, just look at the French Revolution if you need an example of that.
But the French Revolution was centralized. It was just run by the masses.
Yeah, in the name of freedom, or liberty, equality, and whatnot.
I'm definitely a supporter of decentralization. I think people generally take care of their own private and concrete affairs very well. They just shouldn't be allowed to decide abstract things. Certain abstract principles have to be decided. Well, they are decided by God. They are embodied in the natural law, and the government cannot arbitrarily create new laws. It has to actualize the natural law. That's what I think is the essence of traditionalism.
Is to actualize natural law. Interesting.
Yes.
I think that is so. Before we get into traditionalism versus conservatism, this is an interesting question from Crusader Filmworks, and I think that's one I've thought about quite a lot. I mean, Eric looks like he's got a response. Eric, what do you think?
Well, so it goes back to, I think I've had this discussion with you on the Catholic Family podcast, but the way to think about a society is individuals are the material, and then the society is the bridge, right? Or building or structure. You need that structure. That structure has to be made of the right materials. You can't build a bridge out of sawdust. And if I were saying right now, Americans are sawdust and monarchy is a bridge, it's not going to work. You have to change that from the ground up, right? Each individual group, each individual, and then their families, and then their groups has to change in order to better fit what society they will fit into. So if right now you just took someone and said, all right, now America's a monarchy, it would not work.
No, there's a popular misconception that basically, if you became a monarchy, we would get, King Saint Louis, of France, and everything would be good. And we just, to your point, Eric, we just wouldn't. We would get a king, we would get a monarch who probably just embodied all the problems that we already have in our society.
Yep, a people gets the leader they deserve.
Yeah.
So it's a ground up thing. It's not a top. You can't enforce a good society top down.
Sure.
It has to come from the bottom up.
Yeah,
and I would also argue, even if we do get a king saint, right? I mean, Henry VIII, what happened there?
See, I'm gonna push back a little bit, because I think you can. I mean, I think you saw that with Charlemagne. Charlemagne really did just go in and say, "Okay, guys, all y'all, you're going to be in this empire, and you're going to be Catholic."
But that was a very different scenario, because you had
barbarian
tribes.
Against the principle of what Eric said. I'm saying you can say that one monarch can go into a different. I mean, okay, they're probably already led by their chieftains.
There's so many different factors. That was a time when there were kings and emperors and chiefs and tribes, and not the form of governments that we have
in general.
Today,
people were good and Catholic, and we didn't have this information age, and the populace wasn't armed. Right?
You think during Charlemagne they were
not armed with AR-15, not armed like America
brutal.
is armed.
But we must remember that Charlemagne and the early medieval monarchies were not absolute monarchies. They had strong republican institutions.
Mm-hmm.
Charlemagne was not an absolute monarch. He relied on the aristocracy. And I certainly hold to the creed that whatever form the government takes, whether it is a monarchy or a republic, it has to be built on aristocratic elites.
There was I was reading today from Fundamentals of Catholic Dogma, from an encyclical by Leo XIII, where he was talking about that very point about, the church doesn't say it must be this form of government or must be that form of government, but whatever government it is, it must, conform to natural law, divine law. And it even made the point that, having a government where the people are involved, more of a ground up. I need to study it a little bit more in detail, but it wasn't saying like you have to have a monarchy or you have to have this, and that new ideas and new thoughts and new forms of government can't be acquired or have the blessing of the church. He was saying that can happen just as long as they're not trampling on the on natural law, on the rights of the individuals, etc.
Which
So the
is
church
why
is
something like
blindness.
communism is condemned, right? Because
100%.
it is against the
Communism,
anti-God.
socialism, they deny rights of individuals. So they are condemned, but we don't technically have a democracy. We have a republic, constitutional republic in the United States, and that is not condemned by the church by any means. The principles of America that are Freemasonic, yes, those are condemned. 100%. Yes, the false principles are condemned, but the form of government is not. So the point about getting a monarchy here, that's not what I hope for. I mean, it'd be pretty cool, but at the same time, there's so many examples of horrible monarchs, of horrible monarchies that have had tyrants as their rulers. They're putting comments here about Henry VIII. I mean, the Holy Roman emperors that marched into Rome and took the Pope captive and started all of these wars amongst other nations. Those were monarchs. Those are, well, I mean, I know every situation is a little bit different, but the principles of divine law, of natural law, can be trampled on by any form of government.
Probably one of the worst tyrants in history was a Holy Roman Emperor, Frederick II von Hohenstaufen. He was proclaimed to be a forerunner of the Antichrist. And some say that when the Pope excommunicated him and the decree of excommunication was delivered to him, he answered, "How can anyone excommunicate God?"
Wow. Yep. Well, and that somebody had something here about Henry VIII, how he was so good and then he became so bad. Well, I've read a lot of things about him that say he was never really that good. He was so egotistical, even when he was, he and St. Thomas More were writing that book, defending the faith. He was not a great guy to begin with, and bad became worse. But anyway,
and a lot of that was because like the Pope, what did he call him? The prince of the church, or something. I forget exactly what the phrase was. Defender of the faith. But a lot of it was purely political. It was there was this battle between who was trying to side with England and Rome and France and Germany were all kind of fighting each other, and it was kind of a you scratch our back, we'll scratch yours type of a thing. And it is, but it's an interesting thing. Again, it's how you view history, and it's what you're taught in the history books. And that's again back to the point of this channel in many ways, in my opinion, is to try to get past that. Exactly what, again, Rodney Stark, these types of things, these ideas that we all have, that we hear every day on the news, that we were taught in our schools. We hope that from our perspective as Catholics and as doubters, I suppose, sometimes to a fault, that we can really try to say, no, okay, but what is this really? And I like that, Michael, you're saying you want to look into economics. I would love that. I would love to learn more about that. I don't know nearly enough. I talk about this stuff all the time, and I don't really understand it. And I can totally admit that. I would love that. And I think that type of thing, Father talking about the family. So we're going to have economics, family, Dad covering, these topics that no one else really wants to talk about. Eric
Kevin,
talking about GPS.
Your brother Dominic likes going down. He'll go down any rabbit hole, and usually make sense out of it. And I think that's kind of he's hoping. He doesn't want to run a show, but he's hoping to be a guest. And I think he's going to be kind of the anti-Eric. He'll give us the extremist position on whatever
Oh, he's
we
going to
want.
do the extreme position. Oh boy, okay.
Yeah, and he's really more just wanting to play devil's advocate, right? He's not, probably holding some of the positions he's taking, but can at least put the arguments out there.
Nice. I'd love to have him on as a guest. That'd be fun to catch up and talk over some things.
That would be
like
Dominic,
we did many years ago.
Dominic, if Dominic, you're listening, I'll send you the link. You should join us now.
Yeah. We can talk about fantasy football, Dominic, if you want.
I know all the listeners would absolutely love that. Interesting. Real quick, I just saw a comment. Someone listening from Israel. That's pretty neat. Wow. So, Father Geckel, if you ever visit Israel, I know. I actually was there. There was a priest from he's from Austria. He's in Italy right now. Father Joseph was in Israel. It must have been last summer or 2 summers ago. And it was right when that attack
October
happened.
7th.
And so it was October 7th. So we were in Italy at his parish. There's another priest there. And they didn't know, right? He was there with a family from Austria. They're all just stuck in, with bombs and all. I mean, crazy times. So anyone in Israel right now, yikes. That must be a bit rough. But also, I suppose if you're going to get stuck in a place, then, or if you're going to die in a place, if you're going to get, murdered or something, I guess may as well be in Israel, I suppose. But best of luck. I don't hope you get murdered.
Eric's over there.
If you do,
that was a strange train in the mind of Kevin.
I know it's late. It's late. I have the excuse. It's almost 11 o'clock. That's my excuse. But
there was one thing I wanted to say with regard to the United States and constitutional republic and just the way our constitution is. I had this thought about just looking at how the Catholic Church was booming here in the 1930s and 40s and 50s. Just how much it had grown in the United States, and kind of got me thinking. I don't know how true this is or how right my thinking is here, but if you have, I know the principles of free speech and whatever are wrong, of absolute free speech. The Catholic Church condemns that. You don't have the right to do wrong, to spread lies or error, 100%. But if you have a platform where you have all different opinions open, the one that, if people are trying to be logical, and especially if you add in the grace of God, the right, truthful opinion will win out eventually. I mean, we see that in the change of society in the West, the growth of Christian society, civilization. And to my way of looking at it, in the United States, we had such a growth of Catholicism here in this country. And if Vatican II hadn't happened, I think that would have continued, and our country would have been completely changed with its bad foundation, its bad principles. Right. All things being equal, Eric.
Just piggybacking on what you're saying, you're talking about the 1930s, how it was going. I would look right now. Where is traditional Catholicism most blossoming, most taking off? It's in the United States. And maybe that has something to do with the foundation's social or economic. I don't know what, but
or is it that, or
by your fruits you shall know them?
Cultural or personality?
I think it's cultural. I think it's our rebellious spirit, plus the fact that we are physically removed from Rome. I think if you're Germany and you're literally the next country over, more or less. I think you were right there in the middle of it as it deteriorated, and it was so much easier to fall into the errors of modernism.
Well, and I can speak for that now. I know for sure that we still struggle with some people here who come to our church, that they really struggle because they live in a little village, and their village still has customs that are very Catholic. So on certain feasts, you go to church. Everyone does it. Even if you don't go every Sunday, you go for this Ascension Thursday or First Holy Communion or all these things, and it's really kind of considered like bad form if you don't go with. And so it actually is a problem. So there is a really here, this is Bavaria, so I think this is not all over Germany. I wonder if Michael would say the same about Poland, that there is it's certainly cultural and more traditional, and that's what's kept a lot of people from becoming. And I think Poland has to be. And I think maybe Michael, maybe you and I talked about that, how it was Wojtyla who really kind of became this huge thing that kept many people in the Novus Ordo. Is that right?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah.
I would say Poland is very much the home of the Novus Ordo. It is not its birthplace, but it does here better than anywhere else, precisely because it has not yet become absurd. It keeps enough of tradition to stay alive. And
It still has pious roots or devout,
it still has pretty decent priests, traditional, well-educated, I would say virtuous in many ways. So
well, and there's so much to be said about the culture, like Kevin, you were saying with Bavaria. So somebody shared a post with me in November of a Polish practice. I don't know how widespread this is, Michael, but it was a Polish practice for All Souls Day where they brought all these candles and lit up the cemeteries. It was beautiful. I mean, rather than Halloween where they're dressing up like ghosts and goblins and whatnot, they made the cemetery in this beautiful shrine and all these lit candles to remember the departed.
It's universal here. Everyone does.
Wow, that's awesome.
It's bad form not to do it.
Yeah.
So everyone on the beginning of November goes and lights candles on a cemetery.
Yeah, that's something I'd love to see come out of this channel, especially with so many different, is to share with people these different traditional practices. There's so many different ones, and every country and group will have different ones. I'd love to hear more about Catholic culture and traditions in Poland. I have some Polish parishioners here, actually. I'll have to have them reach out to you, Michael. That'd be neat. Like one that was introduced a couple of years ago by some of my parishioners was the like St. Joseph table. I think it originated in Sicily, somewhere like that. And some of the immigrants brought it over here. But on the Feast of St. Joseph, you make this beautiful shrine to St. Joseph, and you have bread and all of these other goodies that the priest blesses, and then everyone has, we had devotions to St. Joseph and other things. And there's just really beautiful things that you sprinkle throughout the year that just makes life so much more. It adds so much culture, and it'd be really neat to share that on this show.
Well, it's interesting here that they have for the major feasts, they have 2 feast days. So Christmas, Pentecost, and Easter all have Sunday or one day, and then the next day. It's not always Sunday, obviously, but they have two holy days. So, and also bank holidays. So you always get the 2 off, and it's nice. It's also tough when you have to drive an hour to church, but with 3 little kids. But it makes the season much more Catholic, and that is certainly a huge benefit to living here. That's a good idea, Father. I think that's something that we do have the benefit of living in these ancient countries, and that really is a difference. I think that's part of America is so much newer, it's so much fresher. There's not these just hundreds of years of customs that we still have in Europe, and I think that as we see, it's weirdly ended up being a good thing.
Kevin, when the Recovators came through and they smashed all of the statues and they whitewashed the altars and they basically redid the churches, we were left with more or less nothing. I mean, we have some state-owned Novus Ordo properties now, but for the most part, we started out in storefronts in people's living rooms, and we had nothing. And I'm wondering if that wasn't more what was needed to really rebuild from scratch.
Could be.
Yeah.
Well,
it's
a good question.
From my understanding of how events went, even before Vatican II, you had in the U.S. so many different immigrants, so many different groups of people that came over: the Polish, the Lithuanians, the Irish, the Germans, etc. And they all, pretty much grouped together, and they had, their different local the culture and customs that they brought with them, but they also wanted to be Americans. And so the 1 generation or 2 generations or 3 generations or however many generations it was, they kept those tradition, that culture. But then you got into just the complete upheaval of upheaval of anything traditionalist. Everything had to be new, the Cultural Revolution, all of that stuff. Just, I guess, as you're saying, it coincided with the changes in the Vatican and whatnot. But those separate identities and beautiful cultures were just kind of all thrown into the melting pot and turned into this modern liberal American culture that doesn't have those roots.
Yeah, it's true. Speaking, I have to give a shout out, speaking of Germany, to a friend of mine who creates daily content in German. So if anyone wants to learn German, this would be a great way to do it. It's a daily lives of the saints and a sermon, like a little sermon or prayer for the day. She's doing 2 videos each day. So a huge shout out to her. It's a very nice channel. She's a very good friend. It is in German. So if anyone who can go and support that too, I just linked it to in the comment section. Please go to it, share, comment on it, like it, subscribe to it, even if you're not going to listen to it. But please, if you understand German, go. It's very good content. I can already tell you that. But I know most people here are probably not going to be able to understand it. But still, I'd really appreciate it if you could support her out and subscribe and like and comment. Just say, I don't know, God bless, and then she'll know where you came from. Anyway, yeah. So I mean, I guess that this has been a really nice show, guys. I really appreciate it. I think this is exactly what I hoped it would be. And this is what I want. And it would be great to have Frankie and Corey on as well. I think this would be adding extra voices to these types of conversations. And I think it's fun how we've really covered many different topics. Civil war, economy, America, monarchy. And I think that's a fun thing. And I think if we can do these live shows, which I hope to do, my plan is kind of once a month type of a thing. We'll see, maybe more, maybe less. And I think maybe we cover topics that are in the news possibly. And if you do, typically it goes down into something, something philosophical or historical or psychological or whatever. And I think that's kind of what I want to do. If everyone wants to see more live streams, let us know. We're not going to always be live streaming on Catholic Family Podcast. Obviously, we have to grow this other channel. So everyone really does need to go and subscribe to the Traditionalists. I really mean it. I'm not always going to do these live streams on both channels. So don't be lazy. You're going to have to really, if you want to listen to more of this content, you really have to go do it. And it's going to be really good stuff, guys. Go ahead, Father.
To that end, if you don't mind, to the viewers, like if you're watching one of the videos on the, especially on the new channel, but Catholic Family Podcast too, if you go on the video, even if you don't listen to the whole thing, just leave a comment, say hi, thank you, or God bless, or something like that. Leave a comment, just like it. If you like what we're trying to do, leave a like. That we want to help improve the algorithm. The more we get, I think there's something to do with the ratios of if you have a certain amount of views and the percentage of likes are really high, it's going to make YouTube promote the content more. And we want to get more visibility, hopefully help more people, and
even if you don't like our content, leave a comment and criticize.
Exactly. Yeah.
You can argue with us.
Guys, go listen to Michael. Eric's going to go listen to Michael's podcast, and he's going to have Eric's going to have some really good ones.
I'll be your number one commenter, Michael.
Exactly.
Michael loves free speech. He just loves free speech so much.
That's right.
I absolutely love free speech, the real free speech, not the liberal bastardization of the idea. Because the real free speech, the idea that we are free to criticize the authority when it transgresses against the natural law, that is certainly part of natural law. And that is something which has to be protected. Actually, Father De Mariana describes in a manual for a king, describes to him what a tyrant does. And he says that a tyrant would, for example, prohibit his citizens from gathering so they can discuss the matters of the kingdom, and he would forbid them to criticize him. So that is the true free speech. Liberals turn it into license to essentially endlessly relitigate settled matters, or license to slander and libel, license to lie, to break contracts and vows. So we have to be mindful that when we are against free speech, we are against the liberal doctrine, which is called free speech only through abuse of language.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that it's a typical liberal play is to change the meaning of words and terms so that you can change the underlying principles. Yeah.
But again, that's what we want. That's exactly what we want to clear up, right? That's what we're here for. That's the way we. And if anyone wants to comment and say, "Hey, I mean, Michael's a smart guy. Eric's a smart guy. Dad's a smart guy. I'm in the
Leave
middle.
me out of this one.
Father's a smart guy. Most of us here are smart guys.
Oh, Michael.
Anyway, we can all Google it as well. But I'm just kidding. But anyone who does want us to cover a certain topic, we would love that. That's really what we want. You know, send it to the email, comment it here, and we'll pitch it around and say, hey, anyone want to talk about it? Anyone want to do this? Who wants to, you know, et cetera. And that we would love that, because again, this channel is for you. Obviously, we're not just here to hear ourselves talk, even though that is pretty nice too. We do enjoy that as well. Eric doesn't, but no, we do really want to do this for you. We do want to talk about what you want to see. I just saw someone saying they would love to hear about, you know, different Catholic traditions. Kate McPherson, our best commenter out there. Kate, you're the best. Seriously, Kate gets it. Kate gets it better than anyone else has ever gotten it.
She understands the algorithm.
Kate,
she totally understands
Kate, we
the
appreciate
algorithm.
you, Kate. You're the best. But seriously though, that type of stuff, we do want to hear what you want us to produce. So let us know. And I guess you guys hit us up if you have any questions now. I think I'm about ready to wrap this up. It's for me and Michael. It's past 11. I got to get up for church with the kids in the morning. So we'll start wrapping this up. But if anyone has any questions or any topics you would like us to cover now, I do want to mention Crusader Filmworks again. I know I've talked about them a lot, even though they're a competing channel. I'm such an idiot. They have another one coming out soon for Our Lady of Prom Succor, which is really, really nice. Really cool story from an American miracle that will be published, I believe. What did he say? January 15th, I think he said was a feast day. So that will be coming up here in a few days. I haven't seen it yet, but hopefully I will. And then I'll let you guys know if it's any good. But otherwise, emails, sure, I'll post the emails. I'll post it in the comments as well. popesandpipes@gmail.com. That's for the show. You can also always email me, Kevin89Davis@gmail.com. I'll probably be the one monitoring both, but I will give others access to the Popes and Pipes. So yeah, and I know I misspelled inaugural. So yeah, I did admit I'm not the smart one in this group. So I'm also very humble. So that's a plus. But yeah, email me either of these two emails. I'll put them up on the screen. Popes and Pipes. Hopefully I spelled that right. popesandpipes@gmail.com. Yep, that one I got. Yeah, again, let us know. And let us know again if anyone wants to contribute. I don't know if not everyone's up for being a full-time host or part-time host, but there's a lot of different things you can do. If you're a good reader, it's something that Father Geckel's so good at. Father Geckel's a great reader. He's got a great voice, and really that's a big help. Even if it could be for the Catholic Family Podcast too. It's like, hey, I got a great book I'd love to read. Let me know. It could be something. We're always looking for content, and good content that can help people lead better Catholic lives. That's what we're all about. So you can also support us. That's another really important thing I want to say. As we continue in this channel, everyone's going to have their own ability and opportunity to have their own Patreon, PayPal, etc. So whatever ways of making money if they want. I will have my own. Michael will have his own. Eric might have his own. Dad will have his own. Father might have his own. Definitely contribute to Father that way. Father's a priest. He needs it more than anybody else. And then maybe it's tax free if you give it to Father. I don't know. I don't know. I'm talking too much. Anyway, everyone's gonna have their own. So just remember that. So if I do a podcast and I put on my Patreon, but you're like, wow, I really love Michael's material. Make sure you're contributing to Michael's Patreon. All right. I mean, I would love your money, but just make sure you know who you're giving it to, because Michael's gonna have a different account than I am, because we're not doing this as a company. This is going to be kind of a subcontracted. I don't know what you want to call it. We are a base channel as the Traditionalists, and every creator is going to have their own little niche. They're going to do their own little things, and they're going to be able to get their own little bit of money. So please do. And again, these things do take time and effort. So if someone does ask you for it, please do contribute so that they can continue to contribute and contribute more and more. And your money helps to do that. I don't think I'll attach anything to this show, but you guys know the drill. Anyway, I guess anyone have any final comments? I guess I'll start with Father. Any final comments?
No, I think I said pretty much all I wanted to say, or all I've thought of.
All right.
Thanks for hosting it, and thanks especially for you people had to stay up late. And
it's all right.
And,
once a month or so, I can do it.
Yeah, the live shows are always fun.
They are fun. They really are. I really enjoy them. They're the most fun because we can interact with everyone in the comment section, which is truly the best. I mean, really, like the favorite show I've ever done, I think, was the election night. That was awesome. We did it was like 9 hours or something. That was awesome, and just so much fun. Just so many comments, and
we cut off a half an hour before they.
And I knew he was going to win. I knew he was going to announce it, but I just gave up too soon. Anyway, Dad, any last thoughts?
Nope.
Eric.
Just a real quick note. I know one of the things you brought up in the beginning was what's the difference between conservatism and traditionalism.
Mm-hmm.
Just to give my quick 2 cents without dragging on the video anymore. I would think conservatism is more like politically and socially based, whereas traditionalism is more culturally and morally based. So this is just, I was thinking about it when you were mentioning it. I think that's where I would kind of put it. So there's a lot of overlap there, but I think traditional is more fundamental than conservative is.
Yeah.
There's
comment, Father.
I'd like
I was like, do I continue?
Yeah, I don't.
Deke Chesterton.
Yeah,
that's all right.
Said
I can sleep when I'm dead.
Conservatives have no idea what it is they're trying to conserve, and progressives are never progressing towards anything.
Yeah. It's a good topic for discussion, I think.
We really should do another show. We should do a whole show about that because I think it is that the terms of conservatism. But it's again like what Michael's saying. You know, what do these actually mean? What should they mean? And what do they?
What is
mean
meant by
now?
them?
Exactly. What should be meant? What are they actually? And what do we think of them now? So when you hear right wing, what did that originally mean? What was that phrase originally? Where did it come from? And what does it mean now? Because they're totally different. I'm sure we would all agree.
Well, and look at how the liberal party now is pro-war, pro-corporation, raging for the machine.
Yeah. Wild.
You know, so it doesn't.
Oh, it's
awesome.
Like, one. Do I have time for a story?
Okay.
I can cut it. We can save it for
no. Go ahead, Father. Go ahead.
No, just like an example of a a principle of conservatism is to conserve. It means to use something up more slowly. And if we're talking about politics, that's having to do with people's lives and principles and morals and justice. I mean, it's all bound up under politics. Politics isn't just voting. It's what are we voting for? What are we moving towards politically? It's like one story that comes to mind. It's not something I followed much, but I heard it on some people talking about it on podcasts. Was like, there's all of this liberal progressive like showing off about how cool it is to be trans, how cool it is to be one of these really weird, really immoral things, and how ugly. It's just so ugly. It's so it's very, very ugly. And as a response to this, the conservative side, you had all of these ladies posting videos of themselves half clothed. Again, I wasn't watching this. I was listening to it. When I saw it, you have to close it and not look at it. But the conservative thing was, oh, yeah, well, look how good looking these girls are. And then they posted them in these horrible, immodest clothing. And that's the conservative thing. It's like, we're not as bad as these guys over here, but let's do something really immoral here. And that's conservatives.
Well, and that's been a big reason why I wanted to start this channel, was to fight against guys like Nick Fuentes and Andrew Tate, guys who are these macho men who are they're the wave of the future of manliness and masculinity, and they're awful, pathetic human beings. It's like, that's not it, guys.
I wouldn't describe Nick Fuentes as macho.
You're right.
I'll agree with you on that one.
If we're going to do this, I guess, if we're going to compete, I guess we're going to all have to start working out here, aren't we?
We might. What are you talking about? Start, Father. Come on.
Yeah, continue.
Okay, speaking for myself. Anybody else going to be honest?
And someone did comment. Oh, nice.
Just because I have equipment too doesn't mean I use it.
And I do have to say, someone commented, I think that was Picante, that we're not all dressed very, very traditionally. And you're right. I literally was thinking beforehand, I'm like, I was going to put on a vest and a tie and I just bailed on it in the last minute. And I'm ashamed of my decision. So I'm sorry. Dad, fortunately, is with me with the hoodie, but next time I'm gonna have a pipe in a yeah. Michael got it. You know, it's got to get the pole figured it out. Father, you're traditional too. Awesome. Well, everyone, thank you for being here. We really appreciate it. Wherever you are, if you're on Catholic Family Podcast, you can like and subscribe there too, of course. But again, the most important thing about the show was not on Catholic Family Podcast. It is to go to the Traditionalists and subscribe. Sorry. Someone help. Comment, like, subscribe, hit the bell to make sure that you get all of these shows. We're gonna have probably daily content, maybe a couple of shows a day. It's already rolling, guys. It's really exciting. It looks really good. And again, it's kind of like you see 200 subscribers. It's like, but it's awesome. It's actually growing pretty fast for a week, and we're excited to have you guys come and join us for the ride. So thank you all for being here tonight. Father, Dad, Michael, Eric. Till next time, we'll see you guys later. Everyone, if you have any questions, email us. We'll see you guys. God bless.
Thank you all.
Thanks a lot.
God bless.
God bless you.
Goodbye.